Welcome back, everybody. We have an assignment for you.
Since this episode is going to be all about our greatest achievements and saddest regrets, we would like for you to find a friend or get with your partner or spouse.
And we're going to give you some categories to split up all of those wonderful things you've done in your life so far. So here they are. We figure you should probably have 3 for each category. You don't have to rank them. We didn't. It was basically, can you come up with 3? So there are personal achievements. This would be obviously something you've accomplished on your own. But we split it up into physical achievements and mental achievements.
Next up is educational achievements. Then we have community achievements.
Think of that one as things you've volunteered for, maybe a board you've sat on, some way that you've helped the community in the best way possible.
And finally, work achievements.
Keep in mind here, consistent with this season, work is only a fifth of these achievements in your life. If you find yourself with lots of work-related achievements, I might just think that's sad.
Okay, Steve, tell us how you really feel. No, what he's saying is that work is a piece of the pie, and if you find that all of your achievements are falling under the work category, and you're realizing that you don't have a lot of achievements in the other categories, that's when you want to take a step back and maybe do a little reassessment.
And, of course, some of these categories do overlap, or they fit in one better than the other, but they kind of fit in both. That's okay. We're not strict on the rules if you've gathered that.
We don't want you to be a rule-following robot now. Come on.
We can tell you that if you do this activity with someone who knows you rather well, you can write down your achievements and you can write down their greatest achievements that you think of.
Yes, and so this is what Steve and I did, and it was interesting. It was eye-opening. Some of the things that he chose as my achievements I had forgotten about or didn't even think about, and vice versa. So it was actually kind of fun because we got to brag on ourselves and each other and then talk about it.
So feel free to pause the episode right now, find that friend, partner, or spouse, and get this done.
Also, all of these categories can be found in our show notes. Thanks.
We are Red Weather Christians.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Steve. We're here working through what drives, motivates, and inspires us to act.
Whether it's a career, a religion, a family, or achievements, does it even make us happy?
So we told you about the assignment, and now we're going to tell you, we're going to reminisce a little bit about ourselves and how we completed the assignment.
Yay! It was fun. First of all, it was fun. So hopefully you enjoyed your experience as well. Yeah, I mean, it's fun to think of the great things we've done in life. Who doesn't love that?
So throw it back to some of those good old days like elementary school, even middle school, because some of our greatest achievements we feel were there.
Oh my goodness, yes. Now that you mention it, I don't think I wrote this down, but in elementary school, just to brag on myself really quickly here, we had a thing called Poetry Speech Meet that happened every year, and every single year, basically you recite a poem, you memorize it, and you recite it in front of the class, and then if you win your class competition, you move on and you get to recite it in front of like this huge audience in this super nice auditorium that they had, and then you get, ranked. I think you get like first, second, third in that. It's a little fuzzy, but all that to say, I won my class competition every single year.
And those blue ribbons, now purple, were still hanging on the yellow refrigerator when I met Jen.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas for me, I killed it in middle school math competitions.
Yeah, baby.
Whether it was math counts or the MCTM, that was my jam.
I like it. It's like you are the math-minded one and I'm the creative one. If you were to look at our little elementary, middle school selves.
Sure. Even though I have other things that I liked, that one's my favorite.
I like math, just to throw that out
Well,
there.
I think of Odyssey the Mind was more of a creative adventure.
Okay, you're just good at everything, Steve.
No, I'm just saying I didn't put it on there. Anyway, it's fun to reminisce, but we also reminisce about times that we've been together and decades together we've seen each other achieve things, both personally, in our community, and in our work.
And in education. We both got our master's degrees while we were married. So we got to see each other achieve that.
True, very true. And while we didn't do this particular thing together, we did both complete a marathon.
It's worth mentioning again because that was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And I want everybody to know that I ran a freaking marathon. And Steve did too.
And that is under our personal physical achievements.
Maybe before we go on, Steve, maybe we should have mentioned this before we started diving into all this, but why are we doing all of this? Why are we thinking about our achievements, talking about them?
Yeah, I thought that was obvious. I just didn't even need to describe it. But you're right.
I mean, why do listeners care about what we've done?
In middle school? I mean, obviously, there's definitely interest there. No, the reason we're doing this is because we talked about this opening line we have, what drives, motivates, and inspires us to act. We usually think of the end product, the achievement. Was it the achievement that really motivated us to act? Was it completing the marathon that really motivated us to train? In that case, yes. But in a lot of other cases, the achievement just happens.
Sometimes you work for it. Sometimes it just happens.
Well, I mean, you would be doing those things anyway, and then the achievement occurs. You're not motivated by the achievement.
We want to take a look at our lives and ask ourselves our opening question.
So one of mine from community or educational was, I won an award for being the best actor in a one act in college 1 year. I would have been in that play regardless. I would have done my best regardless. Was it nice to receive the achievement on top of that? Sure, but I'd already done the work. I wasn't expecting anything else. And those are some things that we like to look back on and be like, that's cool. I got credit for that.
Right. It makes you feel so good. I mean, you did your best, you gave it your all on the stage, and you already got the part. That was an achievement in and of itself. And then you got an award on top of that. Yeah, it's very cool.
And Jen did likewise in high school with a community-wide competition.
Yeah, my senior year, I was Rosemary Pilkington in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And that was a huge achievement, again, in and of itself, because, oh my goodness, getting the lead in a musical, that's huge. I was thrilled. And so, of course, I did my best, sang my heart out, all the things. And then I got this like district kind of award for Best Actress, and it was amazing. I'll never forget that.
And that's to say, again, that achievements that we look back on, that we reminisce about, weren't necessarily the reason, the motivation for our actions. So let's look at what we're doing right now, Jen.
Okay, let's do it.
We're recording a podcast.
We are.
With some loyal listeners.
A few.
In the tens.
No, it's a little bit better than that.
I mean, tens of listeners, like 10, 20, 30, 40.
Oh, okay.
So like 40 to 50 loyal listeners. But if we were doing this for the achievement of audience, listeners, we may have totally failed at that. But part of this is to communicate with each other, to explore new topics together, and to just do this.
Right. And see how it goes. Have fun, talk to each other, and talk to some of you guys every now and then. That's been awesome.
And in line with this season, to keep the conversation going. Like this might be the start of it. The achievement would be that it keeps going.
As my 9th grade math teacher would say, exactly. He was really weird.
That reminds me just to mention that work-related achievements, my lovely wife here did teach math in high school.
Oh my gosh.
I put that on her list of work achievements.
I did not put that on my list of achievements because I didn't even think about it. But yes, I taught Algebra 1.
So let me just go back. We're going to kind of interview each other in this one. What were some highlights from going over your life achievements so far, Jen?
Well, first of all, it's good to simply look back on your life and remember things that your brain is trying to forget. So it was fun to think back all the way to elementary school and think about some things that I did that were great and continue it all the way up to the present day. And like I said before, yeah, it's enjoyable to remember these things that you've done well. It makes you feel good. Highly recommend it.
So can you give me an instance on one of your achievements? Can you describe your motivating factors?
Okay, well, I consider one of my achievements in life as giving birth 3 times naturally without medication. And I wanted to see if my body could do it without anything else put into my body. And so that was my motivation.
Okay, but I was there. I was at those births. Didn't look comfortable, never looked enjoyable. How did you stay motivated?
Well, honestly, one thing that really helped me was thinking about, of all things, the marathon and how awful that was. And I'm like, if I could do that, I could do this. It's just one foot in front of the other kind of mentality. And also another thing that helped me with the births specifically was thinking about how the baby was going through this traumatic event as well and focusing my energy and my thoughts on like, you can do it, little baby, you can do it, instead of just thinking about me and like how awful it was. That psychologically was very helpful for me.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to a different highlight that you have that I remembered, but you didn't even credit yourself with.
You put bread making. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I didn't put that down.
Well, I put it down for one of her community achievements, not because she makes bread for our family, but because she turned it into something else for the community or friends.
You're making this sound so much bigger than it is.
So we'll just start with the simple thing. Why were you motivated to make bread at all?
Well, the initial motivation was that the bread that I saw in the stores had a lot of weird ingredients and stuff that I didn't know what it was, and chemicals and preservatives and sugar and all kinds of icky stuff. And so I thought, wow, we eat a lot of bread. Maybe I should try a healthier alternative to store-bought bread. And so I tried my hand at sourdough. This was way back in like 2013, 2014. And I just looked it up, I think on Pinterest, like how to make your own sourdough starter. So I made my own sourdough starter, and I still use the same sourdough starter today as when I first made it almost a decade ago.
So I've been the recipient and the consumer of most of these products that you've made.
You're welcome.
And I've also been there when you say, this is a quote from her, well, I don't know how that's going to turn out.
Yes. Steve makes fun of me because I say that pretty much every time I put it in the oven. I'm like, I don't know how it's going to turn out.
So I'm wondering.
It's like his own drinking game, except he doesn't drink.
How do you stay motivated even when it doesn't rise enough, or even after it's cooked, you're like, oh, this one is, it's deflating.
Man, lately my loaves have been garbage. And I don't even know why. I think I've been overproofing them. Living at this altitude has been
Too much bread. How did you stay motivated?
Okay. Well, the thing is, let me go into detail. Well, even when it's ugly, it always tastes good.
Yes, it does.
That's my saying.
So even though you didn't put it down, why do I have this as a big community achievement for you?
Oh, well, probably because I share my starter. And sharing is caring. And so now my friends can make sourdough. And then I've done a few sourdough workshops throughout the years. Well, first I went to a sourdough workshop at...
Shout out to Community Loaves.
In Murray Hill. If you live in Northeast Florida, get yourself to Murray Hill to Community Loaves. They are the best. So I went to a workshop there and it was great, met some people and had a fun time. And then I took my knowledge home with me. And then I would do workshops at my house occasionally. I'm not talking a lot. It's just like a handful of times ever that I've done this. And then during the pandemic, I did a couple of like Zoom sourdough workshops because, everybody was making sourdough during the pandemic. The idea, I think, as to why Steve put it under community achievement is that my sharing of the sourdough starter and workshops helped my community.
Yes. She failed to mention one other case where people have requested loaves from her. I think it was one time for a friend's father's funeral, and she made a beautiful loaf with, what do you call it when you cut the top?
So my friend requested a loaf for communion. This was my friend Oween, if you're listening. And she wanted it to look like it had the shape of a cross on the top. And so that's how I scored the loaf.
Well, that's what I wanted to score. Scored in a certain way. All right, this one's the last achievement for you, and we will move on. But you spent a lot of your time playing the piano growing up.
Yes.
Why were you motivated to play the piano or get any better?
Because I had to.
Aha!
I was forced to take piano lessons.
See, this is something I wanted to touch on. And that is, sometimes there are external motivations, or even motivations that are forced upon us, that ultimately aren't a bad thing. It's good for us to be motivated by something. And we want to know what that is.
Well, what's funny is when you look back on life, when I look back on my life, and I wrote that down as well on my sheet, that I was proud of, some of the awards I won in competitions, piano competitions. I'm proud of that achievement. And yet I wasn't motivated by me. I was forced to do piano lessons, and I did them, and, I tried my best-ish, but it is nice now looking back, like, ooh, I have that achievement, and I'm so grateful for that, even though I didn't really want to do it at the time. So I think that's really important in life as well. You do things sometimes that you don't want to do, but then those things might turn into an achievement where later in life you look back and you think, gosh, I'm glad I have that.
Yeah. So another part of this, and we'll get into it, is maybe you lacked the motivation to complete something. Maybe you thought you were going to do something and you didn't. Has that ever happened for you, Jen?
Well, I thought that I was going to get a book published. It was kind of a professional development book for English teachers. I had gotten some really great feedback from a published author. And so I was feeling good, I was feeling confident, and I put my proposal out to a few different publishing companies and got rejections from every single one.
And so you're motivated by being published. Are you still motivated to do that?
I am, and I do submit my writing still, but it's not a life or death situation for me, but I'll continue to submit. I'm not feeling angst about it, though. I'm not feeling this huge amount of sadness when I get the inevitable email of rejection back. It's just kind of like, oh, well, it's part of the process. I've accepted that, and you just keep on plugging. Oh, how the turntables. That's an Office quote, if you didn't catch it. Now I get to interview Steve a little bit. So, Steven.
Yes?
Looking at your category of personal physical achievements, you put something about bike and car maintenance. Would you like to share with us about that one?
Yeah, well, I wasn't necessarily handy growing up, and I didn't fix any of my own stuff, really, at all.
Just to interject here, I'm so sorry, but when I married Steve, I actually thought in my mind, oh my goodness, is this going to be a problem? Because I grew up with a very handy father who would fix everything. He knew everything about cars, houses, all the stuff. So I'm marrying this guy that isn't handy. It was like a red flag a little bit.
Yeah, red flag.
It was.
It was almost a deal breaker.
Oh.
No, so basically, and I'm going to answer why I was motivated for this, and that was, I think of myself as an intelligent human being, and I figure that as an intelligent human being, I can do what other human beings are doing, fixing things.
So was that your motivation, that you were like, I'm a really smart person, and if that idiot over there is able to fix his sink drain, I should be able to fix my sink drain?
Is that not okay
I'm
as part of
just
motivation?
wondering.
But yes, in a way, I didn't think always that idiot. I'm thinking if they can do this and they're a human, I should be able to do this.
You are also a human.
So whether it's reading or watching YouTube videos, I have figured out how to fix a lot of different things. I've done a lot of different bike repairs. I feel very confident in that arena. With cars, I have done some fixing.
Yes.
Not very confidently, but I've done it and it has worked.
You definitely got points with my dad.
Great.
All right, so let's talk about your motivation to become a part of the associated student body in college, Steve.
I do consider that one of my educational achievements. I also consider any elected position that I held an achievement.
Way to go.
Thanks. I was mainly motivated by the prestige.
Okay.
I liked the sound of my own voice, basically.
Okay. Thanks for being honest.
But also, it's a challenge because you don't know if you're going to win or not. You have to put yourself out there.
Oh, yeah, and this is a huge difference between Steve and me. If I think I'm not going to win something, I just don't do it. Because I don't want to lose. It's something that I've been working on. I've gotten a lot better at it. But that's something that I really loved about Steve, that he was totally willing to put himself out there. Win, lose, whatever. He's going to have a good time. And then he did win, probably because he has that kind of attitude.
Yeah, but I've also lost some. I did lose the student body president for my senior class.
How embarrassing.
I had been president my sophomore and junior years, and I lost it senior year, and I
Cried in your pillow at night.
don't know if tears rolled down my face, but I was definitely disappointed in myself.
Aww.
So, ASB was the comeback victory for that.
Okay. Well, moving on. Also, in your community category, you mentioned that you coached the girls' conference champs in soccer. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I feel like this one's more of a we achievement.
No.
Jen was my assistant coach.
I was the conditioning coach, so I made them run.
She was there the whole time.
I was there the whole time. We didn't have any kids. What else am I going to do?
So, no, this was an interesting setup. It was our first season that our school, Calhoun Christian, had a team because in previous years we didn't have enough girls, and we had merged with St. Phil in Battle Creek, Michigan. So between the two schools, we had enough girls to field a team, which was really exciting. And we had a lot of good players, obviously plenty of good players, and we had some setbacks with numbers. Like we regularly went to games with only 13 players, maybe some with only 9 players, if I remember correctly. And those girls, they listened, they tried really hard, and they put together a great season.
Yeah, it was really fun. But at the beginning of the season, were you going into it saying and thinking, conference champs, that's the goal?
Well, considering on the boys' side of that conference, I had yet to win or draw a game at all, the hopes were low, or expectations were low, hopes were high. And it was really just to put together a team and have fun.
Have fun and do your best.
Right. It wasn't even looking to get X amount of victories or whatever. Might I add, though, we did lose to the eventual state champions in the playoffs that year in Michigan.
Yes, I remember that.
So, it was just one and done in the playoffs, even as good of a team we were. Oh, well.
Yeah. So the motivation there was to just have fun, do your best, see what happens, and you guys got conference champs.
We did. And it came down to the last game of the season against Washtenaw Christian. We had to win. And we did.
Just like I can go into detail about my bread, Steve can go into detail about any old soccer game and like who did what play and do.
I do like sports a lot. I do remember things about those sports. And some of those girls might even be listening to this episode. So shout out to Simone and Rachel.
Kelsey and Lexi and Emily Butts. Oh my gosh, Emily was a complete beast. Two Stride Seneca. That was a nickname I gave her because she had really long legs and she was super fast.
So Anyway, yeah, I like that. That was an achievement of mine.
Well, great. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk about our regrets. And we're back.
Wait, that's so weird. We didn't actually take a break. That's why that's funny.
We didn't. It's so funny.
So regret. There are probably many different YouTube videos on regret. We happen to watch a TED Talk by Catherine Schultz.
Yes. And your homework here, disclaimer, we did not really do the homework on this one, but we talked about it. So we didn't actually write things down on a piece of paper.
But we want you to.
I think it would be good. But at least do what we did and talk about some of the regrets you have in life. Did we even categorize or did we just dive in?
You are welcome to categorize these into the similar categories of physical, educational, community, and work-related regrets. We just kind of figured, can you get 3 in general?
Like 3 biggies.
Because part of the reason we're talking about this is so often we are annoyed. We watch some reality TV and they come off, they get voted out or whatever. And they're like, I played that game with no regrets.
Yeah, I just did what I could, had fun, no regrets.
I wouldn't change a thing about how I played the game, even though I lost.
And Steve and I are like, but you got voted out. Like, don't you regret that? Or, okay. And we understand the sentiment here, okay? They got voted out. They don't want to have bad attitude about it, yada, yada. But what if there was something they could have done to stay in the game? I mean, you don't have a little regret? Come on.
Or even, like in some of those cases, you regret not knowing something. Like, oh, if I had known that, I would have done this differently.
Right.
You get voted out with an immunity idol. You wish you would have played it.
I mean, there's got to be a regret there.
Come on.
Yeah, we're talking mostly about Survivor, which we still watch. Maybe that's embarrassing, but it's true.
I don't regret watching that.
I do not regret it. I enjoy it
Let's
quite a bit.
clarify that. So, do you have any regrets of achievements not earned? Like you were really striving for something and you didn't get it. I've already mentioned one. I tried to be senior class president my senior year of high school. I didn't get it. I regret my speech. I regret my approach. I thought I was just a shoo-in to win, and I wasn't. I didn't. I regret my approach to that.
Well, I have one about poetry speech meet, and it's still to this day like a little embarrassing to me. It's more funny now, but it was 6th grade, so it was my last year to participate. And again, I kind of went in with the attitude of like, oh, I got this. I didn't spend enough time memorizing the actual poem. And so when I got up to present, my mind, I got through, I don't know, a few lines, and my mind went blank. And what did I do? I ran back to my desk and cried. But then they let me go again and I won. I don't think they should have done that, but they did. And whatever. I still regret that I did not put in enough work into memorizing that poem. I do regret that. And they shouldn't have let me win. I don't think. But I did, and whatever.
I have some regret in some of my middle school math competition history as well.
Whoa.
I was pretty good at math. And my mom was the coach. She had expectations of me as a math whiz or whatever. And we went to state competition. It was my 8th grade year. I knew we were moving. Full disclosure, if my mom hasn't heard this part of the story, I was kind of going out with a girl who was on our team, but we had broken up before the competition. And,
Drama.
and then I had to travel 7 hours by van with her in the vehicle. And that was, my head was not in the right space.
Aw.
And I did very poorly. I don't even think I was the best team member that day. I think Adrian had beaten me
Wow.
on the individual portion. And I think that's what, going into it, my mom is like, Steve is the best on the team. Wait, why did he not do the best today? And I don't think she knew that part of it. And I regret not being able to block that out.
Yeah.
And just be a really good math mind that day.
Right. Aw, that's sad. Stinking relationships.
Stupid people.
Ugh.
Get in the way of everything you want to do.
Jeez.
Anything else that we didn't earn that we really wish we had?
I mean, there were some jobs here and there that I thought I really wanted. like in college or grad school, actually. There was one in grad school in particular that I thought, oh yeah, I want this. And it was prestigious. I had gotten a really great letter of recommendation from a former employer, and I didn't get it. And I was sad. But I don't know that I have regret. It's just like somebody else got it.
It was just regret over an achievement not earned.
Okay.
And then for me, I also had in high school, I lost my 4.0, so I wasn't valedictorian. Just didn't try hard enough in. Ready for it? Physics.
Oh, the irony. That's okay. You got the physics award in college later, so that makes up for it, right?
Sure did.
The only person in the physics program.
1 out of 1.
Yes. Hey,
First in my class.
you can't take that award away from you.
Cannot.
No, I actually do have a regret about high school. Not about my grades, because I did try pretty hard, and I did not get a 4.0, nor did I think I was going to. But I regret how much I stressed out. I went to a very competitive school, in my defense, in the Bay Area, and it was tough. There was a lot of homework, and I was stressed out all the time. Any of my high school friends would tell you that.
Yeah, that's lame.
I know. And I regret it.
So now we look at a bigger picture. Maybe it wasn't an achievement. Maybe it wasn't something you didn't get or earn. But what about just regrets in life in general? And maybe it does go with achievements not earned because you didn't do this thing. But I think of like sports-wise or physically, I just didn't apply myself as hard as I could have. I was good enough to still start, and that was good enough for me. I just had fun playing. I regret not trying to be better.
I do not have that regret. I played very hard. I applied myself. I went to the camps during the summer, and I was really good. Just throw that out there. We're talking about field hockey here. Team captain,
So the
senior
question
year.
though, Jen, is do you have regrets? Not that you don't have regrets. I'm
okay.
awesome,
I have a regret, and I think it's way worse than yours because it has to do with how I treated people. Not like, oh, I didn't apply myself to be a better sportsman. No, I was mean to people. And there was a girl named Laura, and I think I was freshman or sophomore in high school, and I was very mean to Laura, and in various ways on different days. And wow, I apologized to her like 2 years later, and we actually became friends. We were in choir together, traveled together, but I still regret it because it was so ridiculous what I did and what I said. I should never treat another human being like that. But at least I learned from the experience, and I decided, I had this moment. I'm like, Jen, seriously, you got to just be a nicer person. There's no reason to be mean. And I mean, that really turned things around for me. Just being nice to people. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah. A different regret that I have was, again, not applying myself. When I got to college, I had some merit-based scholarship, and then freshman year, kind of just lived life and didn't care about my grades. And I ended up going down a tier and using it. It was like I lost at least $500 a year. That I regret.
Wow.
It was just silly. It was silly. I could have easily achieved the grades needed.
Yeah.
And I just didn't.
Wow. So I always cared more about grades than Steve, I think.
In college.
Well, I cared about grades in high school. I just also was a realist, and I knew, like, I'm going to try as hard as I can in this biology class, and I'm going to get a B, and that's going to be okay. But
a different regret that I have personally was looking back, and I wouldn't have this regret if I wasn't in the situation I'm in now. Although I got all A's in Spanish, I didn't apply myself to actually learn it well.
Same with me. That is a regret. That's so dumb.
Language is so important.
I just cared about the grade and not about actually learning Spanish. And now here I am like, gosh, I wish I would have applied myself a little bit better.
Or at the very least, kept up what I did know.
True.
So for you young listeners out there, stick with those languages.
Stick with them.
Don't give them up. Keep practicing.
Don't you let them go.
how have these regrets shaped our future decisions? Or maybe they haven't.
Well, maybe I'm a nicer person now. Oh my gosh, you should look at the face Steve is making right now. What is that for? I'm nice.
Yes, she is a nice person. I think we have changed, and this is something that people do as parents. You might have regret from your past, and you try to either live vicariously through your children or make sure they don't make those same mistakes.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a parenting thing.
So we are hammering home that bilingualism
Yeah, we are.
by living abroad.
Hey, we're going to move to a Spanish-speaking country, and you guys have to come with us.
Things like that. I have definitely learned to apply myself more. As in, don't just float by on what you can get done. Be the best version of yourself you can be. We try to tell our kids that too. So, because we've also talked about this, that comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And that I don't want,
Which is from the Bible. We're Christians.
which I tell our boys, like, it's not, Asher if you're better than Shade, or Shade if you're better than Memphis. It's like, or if either of them are better than their classmates. It's not about your classmates and how good they are or how bad they are at something. It's about how good you can be at something.
Yeah, are you doing your best?
Because being better than others is not always good enough.
Oh, I loved it growing up, though. I mean, I remember doing not so well on a test, but what I'd say to my mom is almost everybody got worse than me, Mom. It was always about ranking in my mind. And so that's something I have had to relinquish, move on from, mature.
But if you did listen to that episode, there are cases where good enough is good enough, like running away from a bear. You don't have to beat the bear.
Yeah.
Just the slowest person.
Yes. Should we move on to some silly regrets that we have?
So, we have recently looked back at our marriage, and we've analyzed some of the things that got us to where it was in purity culture.
Mm-hmm.
And our honeymoon and things. And we have a regret.
We do. We do. So this might break your eardrums if you're listening and you are a believer in all the purity culture stuff. But Steve and I look back at kind of when we knew, all right, we're going to be together. And we kind of wish we just started having sex.
Yeah. Obviously, it's hindsight. We know we're solid. So that puts a little bit of perspective in there.
Yeah, but the belief that it's the marriage, it's the wedding ceremony that makes you solid is a weird concept to us now. It wasn't for us at the time because we were coming off of the purity culture stuff.
And the reason we regret maybe not having sex before marriage is because our honeymoon could have been that much better. We wouldn't have been wasting time trying to figure that part out.
Right.
We'd have just been enjoying each other.
And I could have actually enjoyed sex a little bit more on our honeymoon, maybe.
So that's just a silly regret that we can't change. Obviously, we can't go back and do that again, but that we acknowledge that's a regret.
Another regret we had is back when we were in our 20s and we didn't have any kids. We've talked about this before of just we had a lot of time and I don't even know what we did, but we could have been reading more books.
We could have been learning new skills.
We could have been getting more done.
We could have had more sex.
Definitely.
And we didn't.
I don't know why. Anyway, regrets.
And one of the other things, if you do watch the TED Talk by Catherine Schultz, she has this list of what people actually regret. And finances is way low on that list. But I wouldn't put it that low.
I think we all know that, Steve.
I regret that I didn't pay more attention to finances sooner, because then I could have been free from obligatory work sooner. It might be silly, but it's a regret.
All right.
Also, when we were young, no kids, and we were teachers and looking for jobs.
Why were we living abroad then?
Oh my gosh, it would have been so easy.
So easy without kids. Well, I mean, it is a regret, but it isn't a regret because I think where we're at right now with our kids is great. And I don't know that if we had done the teaching abroad thing before kids, I don't know that we would have done it again with kids. I don't know. I don't. It's hard to know what we would have done. But I'm very glad to be in the situation we're in now.
As she vacillates between good or bad right now, let me just remind all our listeners of something that just sticks with us and it shouldn't ever influence our decisions. And that is survivor bias. The fact that you are in the place that you are now means you have survived. So somehow you value the decisions you've made to get to that point. And you look at, oh, I don't regret that. Or I wouldn't make different decisions. That's because you survived. That's it. If you had died, of course, maybe you don't get to choose to regret anymore. But if you had died, you would regret those choices. Or if something tragic had happened, you would regret those choices. Don't you live your life just on survivor bias. Be honest with yourself.
I think it's really popular these days and has been for a while now to say those kinds of things where it's like, well, I don't regret anything that happened in my life because everything that happened in my life led me to this point and it's a really great place to be. And that is kind of a cop-out because I'm sure there were some things that you could have done differently. And who knows, you might have been at an even better point in your life. But that kind of thinking, that kind of logic where it's like, well, how can I regret anything because it's gotten me to where I am today, which is a good place. I think it's still good and healthy to have regrets, to acknowledge them, talk about them with someone you love, with someone you trust, and let those regrets be opportunities for you to be a better person, to be a more skilled person, to be a more educated person, fill in the blank.
One thing that I regret not doing every time, but I know that I wouldn't regret in that situation, the hypothetical, is being more kind to customer service representatives, to bank tellers, to anybody. I'm never going to regret being too kind to someone, even if it turns out they weren't a nice person in return. But I haven't always been that nice person.
Definitely not.
Are you speaking for you or me?
You!
Okay.
And me.
But the idea is to focus on the achievements you've made and see what motivated you. And sometimes to see that regret can be a motivating factor.
We are Red Weather Christians.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Jen.
We hope you'll feel empowered to question the rules you follow,
Fear mediocrity,
and keep the conversation going.